Hey everybody, this is Andrew Lee with Health Mutual Network and your admin over at the California Insurance Agents Group. And today we have a very, very special guest. His name is Dan Kitajima, and he is probably one of the highest producing agency owners I know, not only in California but probably nationwide. So it's a real honor and real treat to actually have him on this on this Friday. So again, I want to introduce you guys to Dan Kitajima. He is the principal agent, the CEO of DKIA. He has quite the platform on YouTube, and I personally enjoy his content. It's just matter of fact, straight up, no fluff. It's just him training his team, sort of going over, mentality and, giving you a little pep in the step in the morning if you guys are listening to him on the way to work. So, Dan, I want to introduce you to the California audience. Not that you're not new to it. You do have an office here in Orange County. So, Dan, definitely want to welcome you to the podcast.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me. But yeah, if I'm the largest agency owner, then I thought you knew more agents.
Well, to an extent. Well, I actually had the pleasure of being. You invited me to go to your office, so I had the pleasure of seeing your office. Which, guys, I mean, his office is probably bigger than some FMOs that I've seen. It's it's in like a pretty big office space in a pretty big complex, and you're in smack dab in the middle of Orange, right?
Yep.
And yeah, he had a huge team, huge shoe collection, right? He's a huge hoop head for those that don't know Dan. And he's a now at this point to me a well-known Clipper fan in the insurance industry, one of the few, the few and the proud.
Yeah,
um,
trying to get you to the right side, but I'll keep working on that.
Yeah, there's too much history to just take a blind eye to. But I do have to admit, I mean, we were talking, it is a little bit more fun to watch the Clippers right now than the Lakers. The Lakers just we got it with the older teams, right? We got it with the old heads. When the young bucks come around, we can't do anything. Whereas you guys are versatile. You guys have the older, all-stars, and then you guys have the speed, and then some of those rookies and some of those, 10-day max players that turn into or 10-day contract players that turn into, a roster spot. So good eclectic mix, I would say.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's keep rooting for the right team.
Our team, I like that. Assuming the sale, that's why he's good at what he does, guys. So yeah, I wanted to get him on just because, guys, I mean, the hot topic right now is PNC. But again, this conversation is probably going to be more than just going over PNC. It's going to be going over how to become a top producer. Dan has a huge agency that writes millions of dollars worth of premium every year. I mean, everybody in his office are six-figure, or for the most part, six-figure agents. So huge operation. So, Dan, I wanted to have you on just so that people can sort of get a piece of, your mind and just sort of, if you can impart some wisdom upon them and just let them know, like, what it takes to get to that level. But um, just so we could start at base one, how did you get started in the insurance industry?
All right, yeah. Yeah, if you want to take it back, I was selling sneakers at a sporting goods store while I was going to college at Long Beach State, and it was commission. So I was like, oh, this is sweet. Like I work part-time while going to school, and if I sell a lot of sneakers, then I get to get the latest pair of Jordans when they come out. So I like sales, and then I just happened to be at a job fair, and AAA was hiring, and my parents had AAA the whole time. And when I was in college, I actually totaled my car, completely my fault, but the insurance really came through. So at that time, I already saw the value of insurance. So I said, hey, this is, I want to sell, if I'm selling something, I want to sell something that actually helps people. So I saw that from an early age. So I got a job at AAA. I was in their call center. They trained me really well. And then 3 years later, um, things didn't work out the way maybe it should have. Maybe I learned a lot of lessons as far as having more humility and understanding that being a top agency it doesn't mean ego and stuff like that. So I learned a really good lesson there. And but my dad was an entrepreneur, so I said, hey, I know the business. Let me start my own insurance agency. Farmers Insurance just happened to be the one that really recruited me the hardest. I felt like they really wanted me there, and they had a real entrepreneurial spirit about them. So I said, hey, could be a good fit. And yes, 16 and a half years later, still doing the same thing.
I was about to say, so
So
you're, yeah, 16 and a half years going on 17. Quite the feat.
yeah, well, next month it's gonna be 20 years since I got my license. So
Mm.
it's, they're AAA at 3 and then almost 17 years here. So it's crazy. It's crazy, man. How long have you been in the business, Andrew?
This is 10 years, so I'm gonna go on to my 10th open enrollment, and I was thinking to myself what I would do for myself by year 10, but I think you might have the same answer for me. It's gonna be, eh, pretty much nothing, and then, the day just keeps going on, and your life just keeps happening, and it is just what it is. It's a milestone. You're like, "Okay, cool. That's cool for about 5 minutes," and then you just get back to work. What are
Yeah,
you gonna do for your 20 years?
yeah. I think it is a good opportunity to reflect back because of how little we do. You know, I think it's like, wow, we stuck with it. So many people we've seen and go, come and go, but even though we don't do it enough, it's an opportunity for us to be like, hey, you know, we didn't give up. It takes a lot of persistence. There's some dark days throughout, but we're still here, and I think that's what makes the biggest difference in this business.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I wanted to get you on because, I mean, you're advertising on Instagram and Facebook and just sharing your stories. You're pretty transparent guy, and I've seen your stories and you're at the gym. You're like, man, I got to get this year going. I got to get this month going, and you're pumping yourself up. And of course, people have had quite the year, in the past year or so in the PNC world. Now, I know what their issues are, policies can't be written or, fair plan this or, you know, everything that's happening all at once. But what is a top producing $1 million generating agency owner worried about day to day? Like, what is the dip that you took maybe in 2023 and what are some steps you took to get out of that funk, if there was a funk?
Yeah, there's definitely some changes. I mean, I could go over what I went through last year. So, but that will take the whole podcast. I mean, we went through so many different things. But I think one of the biggest lessons there is it just starts with attitude for me, just having a positive attitude. That's where it starts off with. But the day-to-day stuff that's on my mind is okay, just keeping my staff's attitude right. But they can't have a good attitude if I don't. So it's so important for me to make sure they have the right mindset, and I have to influence them that way. That's like my main job almost. Like, hey, believe in us or believe in you. Like you can do this. I almost look at that as my job, but if I didn't have the same belief in myself, then how could that spread to them? So a lot of times it's just kind of like making sure we have the right mindset as like, hey, we're gonna get through this. There's gonna be some down years, but the ones that really come out of it stronger are the ones that didn't give up. And when the market gets good, that's when everybody wants to jump into insurance. And then when the market goes bad, that's when people want to leave. But we're gonna go through the recovery stage, and we want to be first in line, and really, yeah, have a positive view and look at the opportunities. There's tremendous opportunity. I think when it's tough, we came up with ideas that we wouldn't have came up with. So I look at it as a blessing. Like there's opportunities in every obstacle. You just have to look really hard. And some of the things we're doing now, we would have never done if the year was in any old year. There's actually great producers out there looking for jobs now. Like they will never be looking for jobs when the market is good. So there's a lot of recruiting opportunities out there. I, but yeah, to answer your question, day to day, it's really about making sure my producers have the right mindset, and then people in general, having the right people. And then I will add another thing, Andrew. I'll say systems, because it's not going to be something where you just make a tweak or a little thing like finding a little solution for this issue. It's kind of like you got to rebuild a whole system because everything is so different now. Is you got to, your CRMs and if they do this, then what happens and what, campaigns they go into and building those out. So I'll say people and systems are really what's on my mind pretty much all day long.
Yeah. Which, I mean, a lot of solo producers, solopreneurs, are trying to get to that level. And of course, that is work in itself. I mean, coming up with a system that takes years, obviously, probably took you years. Investing in the right people probably took you years. So it is a labor of love. A cool thing is I was sort of digging into your YouTube channel because I think that some of the content in there is phenomenal and it's very applicable. Was one where you were talking about in his format. If you guys haven't seen it, I'm gonna actually um, post his channel on the comment section below. But it's just an open format Monday morning, it seems like Tuesday morning meeting that they have at the office. And one topic that came up I thought was pretty interesting was the finite game and then the infinite game, right? So I know you were talking to one of your I don't know if he was your sales manager, one of your people, but you explained the finite game where people come in and they look at the finite game, the short-term game, and people look at the infinite game. I think y- your response was, I'm looking so infinite that, I want you guys, my sales squad, to show up on my funeral one day when, when that time comes. And I was like, that is a bar right there. That's definitely a bar. Um, can you walk our audience through sort of the difference between a finite and an infinite game?
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, the finite game, it ends, so it's either you win or you lose. But the infinite game is you're thinking so long term is literally the only goal is to not be able to keep playing. And I think that really has helped me because yes, last year was terrible, but it's just a year. So when you think short term, that's when you're thinking like, oh, this isn't right for me. Like I shouldn't be in this business, or maybe I should start doing something else. Whereas if I think more long term, then I know, hey, I'm still in business. I say have some money saved up. I'm gonna be ready to bounce on it when the opportunity comes. And the longer term I think, the better behaviors I have. So for example, if I'm thinking that long term where I want my staff members to be at my funeral, then I better deliver some value to them. They're not gonna show up if was some opportunity that didn't pay off for them or didn't teach them the right values or didn't give them any value. And same thing about, having my sons run my business one day. That's also think long term too. So I want to make sure they have the right values. So it really helps me. And then, 2023, 22, when it was great, I was thinking long term and I wanted to keep playing the game. So even though that was a great year for us and I wanted to buy a Lambo, I didn't because I was thinking long term, like, hey, this might not last forever. Like the profitability numbers are not looking good for the company. There's a little bit of delay when the agents get affected. But I think again, thinking long term helped me delay my gratification and act accordingly to what might happen. And I think that's really a big part of the game. It's just like, okay, not making investments because with the residual effect, it's the actions you take right now doesn't help you right away. A lot of times it's business. So really thinking long term helps me make the right decisions, I feel like. And I think that is something that I've seen over and over again. And even though you're always pushing off the payback, that process is something you just enjoy. Like you're not even waiting for the payback. It's kind of like, oh, this is fun, just like delaying and delaying, delaying. That process, if you could enjoy not the payoff, but the process, then it gets easier and easier. And I just feel like I'm always excited about the future because I'm doing that type of things.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a hoop head myself. I know you're a fellow basketball lover. So we get along, I guess, on that topic there. But I mean, yeah, just going. I mean, again, when I was growing up, I used to like playing RPG games, like those Final Fantasies or like, those, I'm gonna nerd out for a second, but those kind of games, where you're
Yeah.
building something. I think now it's the equivalent of Minecraft for the kids out there. You're
Ex-
building something, but you don't complete building something. You're going on to the next thing after you build something. You're like, okay, I did all that, and then there's another thing to build, and it's just an infinite world of just building something. So I mean, something that I believe is you have to love the game itself. I mean, the corny, phrase of, it's not the destination, it's the journey. you can very much expand on that and just say, I love the game. This is a sport. This is a game to me. This is a role RPG game, and people are just not clients or bots, but the simulations, you can treat it as such because I mean, if you're scaling a business, obviously you want it to be predictable and you want to win the game that way, but even when you win, there's a next level, right? So that's sort of how I think. Is that sort of the perspective you have?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. It is like that. It is when you look at it as a game, it becomes more funner too. So I really relate to you when it comes to looking at it as a game, and that's how what I try to do with my staff too. Hey, what numbers did you hit? Who did you beat?
Right.
Make it a competition, and I almost look at it as like a basketball coach too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is fun to gamify, our job.
I mean, it very much is. I mean, yeah, we are coaches, right? At the end of the day, we got to know when to sort of somebody's not performing well here, know when to bench them, quote unquote, or sending into a different department. Let's say if they're not, meant for sales, maybe we might be good on customer service or retention here. Or if we have a star player, a budding rising star that needs more minutes, leads, whatever the case is, we're sort of working as coaches as well too. So yeah, of course, those correlations they go pretty hand in hand. I think really all competition. That's what I tell my agents. Like this is a like a it's an endurance sport. It really is because I mean it's not so much. I mean I want to compare it to basketball. It's more like golf. It's just like you just got to really just tap in. There's gonna be downs. We've seen the whole Tiger Woods saga. There's gonna be downs and then there's gonna be ups again, no matter what age you're at. And this industry just doesn't go away. It's evergreen. So it's just it's a long game. So that's why I equate it more to like golf. But yeah, I'm glad that you think that's the same way because I mean I can see we're both sort of gamers. I feel like if we're on a court together, we're gonna ask each other to play one on one or something like that. It's just in us. We can't help it, right? We can't just be shooting. We got to play 21 or something, right?
Yeah, well, you're 10 years younger than me, so
Pending injuries, yeah, yeah,
you're-
pending injuries and all that good stuff. Knees. I do have, a little bit of youth on you too, but then again, knowledge comes in. But I just feel like, if that was a situation, that's just the type of people we are, right? And we love it. It's fun.
it is fun. And one of the advantages of business that's a little different. There's so many similarities from sport, but with the finite game, you know, it's kind of like, well, basketball, it has to be five players, and you only could, play for the 48 minutes. But in business, it's like, well, no, you could have a sixth player on the court, seventh player, eighth player, and you can have as many players as you want. So I think in that way, there's more infinite
Yep.
as far as the possibilities. And also just like, shooting percentage, like, well, one shot could only be 3 points. If you get fouled, maybe maximum 4 points. But in business, you could take a shot and your percentage could be horrible, but that could be a 1,000 pointer, So it's like the infinite part of the business is what even makes it even more fun. So
Yeah,
finding different, there's a lot of similarities, but finding even advantages. Like, well, that's when I first, hired my first person. I was like, I was on this leaderboard, and somebody we started with was getting off to a pretty good start, and I was beating them. And then this person hired two people, and then they were killing me. I was like, wow, that's not fair. But I was thinking like, well, I could do that too,
oh, yeah,
So I think there's a lot of fun things as far as how infinite the game is. That keeps me excited for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, especially with the infinite game. I mean, you can get away with the travel if you sell it
Yep.
well enough, right? Like that kind of stuff you could do.
Well,
Um,
there's compliance though, Andrew. So
well, of course, compliance. I'm
I'm
just
just
saying,
kidding.
but James Harden great example of, sort of bending hand checking rules. These rules, compliance hand checking will come in, but we'll adapt is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Um, and with the infinite game, it never stops. So the love of the game is the journey, is the actual game, right? Because with the finite game, you sell your book of business and you're out, and that's it. That's a wrap for you being known as an insurance person, which is sort of sad for me to sort of envision myself later on. But yeah, so Dan. Of course, right now I mean, you've had a lot of success. I know that you're not braggadocious and you hate, people spouting your numbers. I mean, but then your numbers sort of speak for itself, and you're always going to be, I mean, I've seen you being touted as one of the top agents in the US. For some of the people suffering out there, besides, what we've talked about in terms of hiring and scaling, for the people who are just like, I can't get this thing homeowners policy through. I can't, just the day-to-day struggles of, wanting to expand, but just these things that keep happening. What's some good advice for them, the struggling agent right now, to get out of their funk, or just some words of encouragement to have them hold on?
Yeah, well, the long game is definitely one of them, right? Playing the long game. We already talked about that though. So, and we talked about mindset already, right? And we talked about staff. So I want to try to think of something that's different from that. But man, I feel the opportunity is underrated, and I feel like if you look at the opportunity, then you appreciate a little bit more. So understanding, and maybe that's why if you're listening to this, you're searching, so you're already on the right track of like understanding what could be the possibility from this business. And that's why I get really excited to talk to you and see your success at your age and what you already know and stuff like that. Just getting around agents that are excited about the business or already winning and getting as close as possible to them will really probably get you out of that funk because that's just going to rub off on you. And you're going to say, hey, this is a great opportunity. It's hard right now, but I'm learning and I'm just not going to give up. I think that if you feel that way, great things are going to happen and it's just gonna take time, It's just we just can't get rich off one policy in this business. It's just a nickel and dime game, but those things really add up. So it's more of a consistency game. So understanding the opportunity so you can appreciate more. And then I know I mentioned it already, but having a team I think will help a lot. Having some staff members that you really do care about, then you get creative, be like, hey, how am I gonna help this person out? How am I gonna help this person win? And the more you give to your staff members, you're gonna get back. So instead of like saying like, hey, what can I get out of this business? It's more like, hey, what can I give somebody else? What can I help somebody else with? And if that's staff members or a client, you're helping people, I think that mentality of I got to give first and then get back later will probably help you get through the difficult times because you're always thinking, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? That's gonna, people are gonna sense that. Your staff's gonna sense that, your client's gonna sense that. So having a servant mindset, I think, and you just have to, based on your financial situation, it's also a risk tolerance thing. Is like, hey, the more you can hold your breath for the future, the better the payoff is. So it's kind of like making a negotiation in your mind, like, how bad do I really want this? And it's okay. Like it's if it's too hard, if it's just not for you or the uncertainty is too much, sometimes the grind is hard, but the uncertainty is just as hard. Like which can you handle? Like some people can handle the grind, but they can't handle the uncertainty. So I think that's just a personal decision, that everyone has to make. But if you're willing to pay the price, then there's a lot of reward, and I think that is something that I just want to tell everybody that it is worth it because uh yeah, we already know. Like you guys already should know and do know what the potential of this business is. And it's been a great business for me. We're truly helping people. We're not doing anything that we sleep really well at night, helping families. Like you can have a great family life too. So yeah, I just like everybody to just look at the positive side and look at the long game and have some good people around you. I think that's really the key there.
Yeah, I mean, again, scaling will kill all woes. I mean, again, like we were talking about earlier, the solopreneur, you can't just sell because you have to wear so many hats. And if you're just selling, then at that point you're not growing because then another part of your business is sinking. You have to worry about renewals and you have to worry about this, you have to worry about that while you're still selling, while you're still following up, while you're still dialing, while you're doing all of that. So I would say, I mean, yeah, Dan's completely correct. I mean, if you wear too many hats, I mean, you're just going to get worn out, and it's not conducive to growth. So, yeah, 1000% agree with you on that. Then anything fun coming your way? Any questions you've had maybe for the California audience? I know you're sort of all over the place in terms of, you know, um, what you do and where you speak. But just any whatever on your mind for the California audience out there.
Yeah, no, I want to ask you a question, Andrew. Like, what do you think is the key? Because selling is important, right? Especially if you're, doing it by yourself. I think that is one of the things that you need to get good at first. You got to pay the bills. And I think if you're struggling with these carriers, but if you're just a killer in sales, that solves a lot of problems. So you do need to be winning, and then that momentum will help you feel good about yourself and be able to get out of these hard market situation. But what do you have seen where people have made that transition, do you think, from being a sales agent to having other people sell in your organization?
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen it when somebody strikes gold on a lead source, or they've just put in so much work and have just such good bedside manners that they've amassed such a big referral pool in the health side at the very least. And have partnered up with 55 and up communities, partnered up with financial advisors where they're exclusively, either on the board of directory for that agency, or like a Remax, or real estate agency. So just really nurturing those partnerships. I feel like at like in our line, maybe after like 800, 600, 800, you should probably get some kind of assistance, maybe the very least a VA, and then an admin, and then sort of have that admin transform into a producer, get them licensed and all that good stuff, and then hire another, and then rinse and repeat. And then, of course, in our line, we have the recruiting game as well too. Um, so from there, just be really good, put into 10,000 hours, and make sure you know what the heck you're talking about, so that you don't look foolish in front of, the people that you're supposed to make money for, the people who've entrusted you to make money, to have them make money, and your reputation. You can, mess up your reputation in 30 seconds if it took you 30 years to build it up. So you gotta factor all that in and make sure that you're putting in the work, and they know that you do. I hate being braggadocious about numbers and stuff too, but sometimes I do have to present that just to be like, hey, this is what we're dealing with. So yeah, just to answer your question, it's really the same thing. It's funny enough. I mean, this is all lines, like any business in general, will have the same kind of, we'll have different problems, but we'll have the same, way of attacking those problems. We'll have the same way of sort of expanding on those issues and finding a way to scale, like whatever we have to do. I know you're huge on, Twitter, or sorry, on Facebook and Instagram, where, what I'm trying to do is, of course, the group very much helps in getting information out there, good information, right information, hence why you're on. Because again, we want, authorities talking to, I mean, anybody can start a comment thread, and anybody can just go buck wild on a Friday afternoon and just start talking about this, and that. I don't like that kind of chaos in a comment thread. So yeah, that's why I like, again, having authoritative voices on, to actually have the audience who, especially if they're new, have good information, because they can be swayed one way or another. So very glad to have you on for that exact reason. Hopefully that answered your question.
No, yeah, no, thanks for having me on, man. It's great that what you're doing for, agents. That is something that you truly given, your time and to have a resource where people could get together. Like that's kind of what we talked about, You like want to be surrounded with right-minded agents that are winning, and being around them is so important, and the information too. We have to be there to help each other because during difficult times, especially. So yeah, to already have that such a engaged group that's just really shows like, what type of leader you are and how committed you are to the insurance business. So yeah, you're definitely someone I want to keep up with because yeah, rising star right here.
Well, that means a lot to me because I think the world of you. I think your content is great. I mean, I think your operation is phenomenal. You already know that you're an award-winning producer. So, yeah, definitely wanted to give you your flowers as well too. So I know you're super busy, so I definitely want to appreciate your time, and I do thank you for being on. Maybe we can do this again. Maybe the next one's just gonna be all about basketball, just all about the Clippers. And when the Lakers are good, it's probably gonna be all about the Lakers. And then maybe we could even catch each other at the game one of these days. Who knows? That's
Yeah, definitely, man. And yeah, I have my show too, my YouTube show. So you got to be a
oh,
guest on there. This time around, we'll flip it around and see what's working for you. But yeah, it's been fun, Andrew, getting to know you. But yeah, it was a good point that you made too about just being good at sales and then being good at marketing and then being good at hiring, recruiting. There's so many skills that's involved.
right.
Right now, my mindset is all about just trying to get the best out of my staff members,
Yeah,
so it's stuff that I never thought I would have to do, like getting in front of them and talking to a group of people. Like that's something I would have thought I would do as like a shy Asian kid. And now, that's stuff that I see how valuable it is for our business. So it's been fun. It's really been fun. And I just want to share with you guys that with more time, it just gets more funner to me.
yeah. I mean, again, the adage is if you don't quit, can't fail,
That's right. You can't lose.
can't lose. Yeah. Awesome. Good, very good points. And again, appreciate you having me on. Again, I'm more than happy to do your podcast as well too. Definitely has more subscriber than mine. But that whole the Asian thing, that's a whole nother topic in itself, so maybe we can touch upon that, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
You,
but
you
for
know, if you're
now,
Asian and then you're for an insurance agent, something went wrong there.
well,
Because
I'm an insurance agent now. So
we should. Why are we not doctors or lawyers, Andrew? We must have messed something up. But
I know. I
yeah,
mean, we were broke. I mean, you went into shoe sales. I started off door to door doing Dish Network. We are just rogue agents and we are probably outcast for a couple of years. Look at us now.
that's right. May not have been to the best schools, but we didn't
Yeah.
give up, right?
That's right. So yeah, I mean, again, yeah, I'm so glad to have you on, and yeah, this was a fun podcast. And again, my brother from the same complexion mother, love having you on. And guys, I'm gonna put Dan's content on the bottom of this. On the comment sections here, and also probably in the description itself too. His channel is phenomenal. No matter what line you're in, you're gonna get something out of it. And I've really enjoyed watching his channel as well too. And it's just again good being around top producers. You want to be around the like in order for you to become one as well too. So guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Please like and please subscribe so that we can bring out more content, more actionable items, more good stuff, more rambling on my end for the most part. And again, I'll see you guys at the next one. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Andrew, for having me.